You're just here to wash dishes. Don't embarrass us, my mom snapped, loud enough for the entire brunch table to hear. Her hand gripped my elbow, firm and punishing, shoving me toward the swinging kitchen door like I was the help. I nearly stumbled into the waitress carrying a tray of mimosa glasses. I looked back once, hoping, foolishly, for someone to speak up. Not my dad. He kept sipping his orange juice, eyes glued to his phone. Not my sister, Tiffany. She was too busy giggling with her fiancé's rich family. Not even my older brother, Derek. He was already pretending not to know me. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I was about to disappear into the back, head down, heart burning, when I heard the scrape of a chair. Slow, deliberate, the room hushed. Grandpa, Elliot Monroe. He stood tall, proud, in his perfectly pressed blazer, 84 and sharper than anyone else in that room. He lifted his cane, not to walk, but to point directly at my mother. Then I'll eat where she is. The entire room fell dead silent. Tiffany's future mother-in-law dropped her fork. My dad lowered his phone. Derek blinked like he'd just woken up. You heard me, Grandpa said, his voice calm but loaded with weight. I'll eat where Ashley is treated like a human being, not like this. My mom's face flushed deep crimson. Dad, she's being dramatic. Enough. Grandpa cut her off. You may have forgotten where you came from, but I haven't. I worked 3 jobs to put food in your mouth, and now you're shaming your own daughter because she helps with dishes? He turned his back on the table and looked at me. Ashley, sweetheart, would you mind if I joined you in the kitchen? My throat tightened. You want to eat with me? He smiled. I'd rather break bread with someone who knows what gratitude means than sit here with people who've forgotten. And that's when the tears started. Not from me, but from my mom, because she knew what was coming. We sat at the small kitchen counter on mismatched stools. Grandpa passed on the salmon tartare and took eggs and toast instead. He didn't talk much, but every time he looked toward that fancy table outside the kitchen doors, he shook his head. Your mom's changed, he finally muttered. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. He already knew. I want to ask you something, Ashley, Grandpa said, setting his fork down. Why didn't you speak up out there? I shrugged. What would be the point? They've never respected me. He studied me, his gray eyes filled with something that looked an awful lot like guilt. That's my fault. I've let your mother's ego run wild, but I'm about to change that. I tilted my head. Change what? He leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. There's a lot you don't know, honey. But this brunch was a test, and your mom just failed it. My stomach twisted. What do you mean a test? Before he could answer, the kitchen door slammed open. My mom walked in, shaking with rage. Dad, you're humiliating us, she hissed. No, he replied. You humiliated yourself. You embarrassed your daughter in front of everyone. She's just a dropout who works retail. I felt the sting, but Grandpa didn't even flinch. She's the only one at that table who's ever worked an honest day, he said. And I'd rather give her everything I have than let you turn it all into a showpiece for Tiffany's wedding guests. My heart skipped. Wait, what? He looked at me with a small smile. That's right, the trust, the shares, the lake house. Everything. My mother gasped like he'd slapped her. You wouldn't, she whispered. I would, he said. In fact, I already did. I just needed to see your true colors, one last time. And right then, I realized. This brunch wasn't just a family get-together. It was the beginning of war. The moment we got back to Grandpa's house, I felt it. Something wasn't right. It was too quiet. No TV playing in the background, no clinking of his coffee mug against the saucer, no soft jazz humming from his vinyls like usual. He led me inside, slow and steady with his cane, but his energy had shifted. The warmth he showed at brunch was gone now, replaced with something colder, more calculated. Sit, he said, gesturing toward the dining table. We need to talk. I sat. He didn't. Instead, he walked over to a locked drawer in the side cabinet. I hadn't seen him open it in years. Inside, nestled among old documents and faded photographs, was a single thick envelope. He tossed it on the table in front of me. What's this? I asked. My will. I froze. Grandpa, I'm not dying, he interrupted, but I'm not stupid either, and I've waited long enough to clean this mess. He tapped the envelope. You are now the primary beneficiary. Everything your mother assumed she'd pass on to Tiffany, it's yours. The house, the land, the retirement shares, the trust fund, all transferred. Quietly. I stared at him, stunned. Why me? He looked at me, his face suddenly more tired than I'd ever seen it. Because you were always the one they ignored. You took the insults, the mockery, the exclusion, and you stayed kind. You didn't chase money. You didn't beg for love, you just endured. And now it's your turn. Tears welled in my eyes, but I blinked them back. They're going to hate me. He nodded. They already do. But this time, you'll have power. Just then, his phone buzzed. One look at the screen and he sighed. Speak of the devil. I knew it was my mom even before he answered. What now, Clarissa? He said flatly. From across the table, I could hear her shrill voice blaring through the receiver, even on speaker. You embarrassed me today, in front of Tiffany's future in-laws. Do you have any idea what that cost us? Grandpa didn't flinch. The only thing it cost you was your entitlement. I built this family, she screamed. I organized everything. Ashley doesn't even belong here. My jaw clenched. Say that again, Grandpa said quietly. You heard me? That girl's not even... He hung up. I stared at him. What did she mean? He rubbed his temple. It's what I've dreaded telling you. What? She's not your biological mother. I blinked. My heartbeat slowed, like my body was buffering the truth. She married your father when you were barely 2. Your real mother, Grace, was my daughter. She died young. Clarissa never wanted you, Ashley. She only tolerated you to secure her image. Everything since has been control and manipulation. My voice came out hoarse. So, Derek and Tiffany? Half siblings. The room tilted. I felt like I'd been sucker punched by reality. All these years, she called me a mistake, I whispered. A burden, and all along, I wasn't even hers? He nodded slowly. She never saw you as hers, but I always did. I dropped my head into my hands, shoulders shaking. I thought I just wasn't enough, I said. All these years, I thought I just wasn't good enough to be loved. Grandpa leaned in and said something I'll never forget. Darlin', their hate wasn't about your worth. It was about your existence being a threat to their lies. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept playing every childhood memory in my head. Every time Mom pulled me away from family photos, told me to stay quiet, made me sit at the kids' table while Derek gave speeches at Christmas. None of it was random. I had never been part of their story. Just a placeholder, a shadow they tolerated, until now. The next morning, I drove to the family estate. They were still there, celebrating Tiffany's wedding plans like yesterday's drama hadn't happened. I parked the car, walked right up the cobblestone path, and knocked. Clarissa opened the door. Her face dropped the second she saw me. You're not welcome here, she said coldly. I smiled. That's funny, because I believe this property is partially mine now. She went pale. I stepped in, brushing past her like she didn't exist. Derek stood up from the couch. Ashley? What the hell are you doing? Tiffany crossed her arms. Seriously? After yesterday? I turned to all of them, calm but ice cold. You lied to me my entire life. You hid who I was, what I came from, and then treated me like trash for not fitting into your little fantasy of perfection. Clarissa's voice cracked. You don't understand? No, I cut her off. You don't get to talk. You lost that privilege. I pulled the envelope from my bag and set it on the coffee table. This is Grandpa's will. Updated, signed, witnessed, notarized. They all stared at it like it was radioactive. He left everything to me, I said, voice razor sharp, because you failed the one thing he asked for, basic decency. Clarissa's lip trembled. This is a joke. I leaned in, lowering my voice. The only joke is that you thought I'd stay silent forever? By nightfall, the house was in chaos. Clarissa paced in the kitchen like a rabid dog. Tiffany kept checking her phone, probably texting her fiancé to ignore the family drama. Derek stood by the fireplace, eyes darting between the will on the coffee table and me like he was calculating damage control. No one spoke for a full minute, just quiet tension, thick as smoke. Then Clarissa snapped. You don't get to steal what we built, she shouted. You think Grandpa did this out of love? He's old, confused. We'll contest it. I laughed once, sharp, humorless. Contest it, I said, folding my arms. You'll only embarrass yourselves further. Everything's airtight. Witnesses, lawyers, power of attorney. Grandpa's not senile. He's just done playing along with your fake family show, Tiffany scoffed. You really think money makes you one of us now? I never wanted to be one of you, I replied, staring her down. I just wanted to know why I wasn't enough to be treated like family. Derek cleared his throat. Ash, we can work something out. Maybe Grandpa overreacted. Let's be reasonable. I tilted my head. Like when you locked me out of Mom's birthday dinner because I couldn't dress the part. He went quiet. Clarissa tried a softer tone. Manipulation, her favorite trick. Ashley, you're being emotional. This is a family. We don't need to fight. I walked toward her slowly. Say it again, I whispered. Her eyes narrowed. Say what? That I'm not your real daughter. That I'm nothing. She flinched, but I wasn't done. I stepped even closer. Because if you're going to fight me, I want you to be honest about why. It's not about Grandpa's money. It's because you're terrified. Terrified that the girl you called a mistake, a dishwasher, a burden, is the only one he trusted in the end. Clarissa slapped me. It wasn't hard, but it wasn't soft either. Tiffany gasped. Derek stepped forward. I didn't move. I let the red bloom on my cheek and looked her dead in the eye. You just proved him right. Then I turned to leave. But as I opened the door, I saw him. Grandpa, standing outside, leaning on his cane, and behind him, a woman. About 60, short auburn hair, wrinkles that framed gentle eyes. She looked at me, hesitantly, then her hand slowly lifted in a nervous wave. Grandpa stepped, inside. I thought it was time. Clarissa's mouth fell open. No, she whispered. You didn't, he nodded. I did. Ashley deserves the truth. I glanced between them. Who? He took a breath. This is Marianne, Grace's sister, your biological aunt. I nearly stumbled. She's been writing to you since you were a child, Grandpa added, but every letter was intercepted. By Clarissa. Clarissa shook her head, but she didn't deny it. You never even let me know her? I said, stunned. She was nothing, Clarissa hissed. A memory from a dead woman, Grandpa's voice roared. She was her sister and Ashley's godmother. I backed up, dizzy. Marianne stepped closer. I never stopped thinking about you. I tried every birthday, every Christmas. She returned my mail, blocked my calls. She opened her purse and pulled out a stack of worn envelopes. My name was scrawled on every one. I kept them all, she said softly. I took them in shaking hands, letters, drawings, even a faded photo of my mom holding me as a baby. And suddenly, it all broke. My chest caved, my knees buckled. I dropped into the chair behind me, sobbing like a dam had split open. Marianne knelt beside me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have fought harder. You did, I choked. She just made sure I never saw it. Clarissa stormed out of the room. Tiffany followed, slamming a door upstairs. Derek remained still, silent, ashamed. Grandpa exhaled. I wanted to wait until you were ready. I was never going to be ready, I whispered, but I'm glad you didn't wait any longer. Later that night, Marianne and I sat by the fireplace. She told me stories about my mother, Grace, how she loved vintage music and wore yellow raincoats even when it wasn't raining, how she used to dance in the living room barefoot and wanted to be a writer. She was brave, Marianne said, touching my hand. Like you. I didn't feel brave. I felt broken, betrayed, hollowed out from years of lies. But I nodded anyway. Grandpa returned with an envelope of documents. Ashley, he said, I want you to take over the Monroe Foundation. It's time. My breath caught. The foundation? I whispered. The scholarship fund? The women's shelters? All of it. You're the only one who won't exploit it. You understand what struggle means. You've lived it. I looked at Marianne, then back at Grandpa. I'll do it, I said, but I'm not going to play nice with them anymore. I want them out. No more using your name to prop up their image. I'm cutting them off. He smiled. Then make it count. And I did. 2 weeks later, the family received their formal notices. Tiffany was the first to call, screaming. You canceled the Monroe sponsorship for my wedding venue? Yes, I said plainly. The Monroe name doesn't sponsor people who mock family. But it's my wedding. My guests, my fiancé, deserve better, I cut in. From you. I hung up before she could spin it. Derek texted me next. We need to talk. This is getting out of hand. I didn't reply. Then came Clarissa. She didn't call. She showed up. Uninvited. Furious. She banged on Grandpa's front door so hard I thought it might splinter. I opened it. She didn't even wait to be asked in. You've humiliated us publicly, removed our access from the family bank accounts, canceled Derek's internship, Tiffany's funding, even my allowance. Is this what you want? Revenge? I stepped back, arms folded. Number, this is what I call accountability. She looked around the house like it was enemy territory now. Your grandfather's manipulating you. You were never supposed to have this power. Maybe not, I said. But I do now, and I'm not the one who lied for 20 years and shoved a toddler into emotional exile. Clarissa looked at me for a long time. Then her tone shifted, dangerously quiet. You think you've won something? She whispered. You're alone. No one is going to stand by you when the dust settles. We built this family, not you. You're just a side note, a girl who's good at folding napkins and scrubbing floors. My jaw tightened. I stepped in close. Then maybe you should start folding napkins too, because you're officially cut off from everything. Clarissa went stiff. You can't do that. I already did. She glared at me like I'd stabbed her in the chest. He'll regret this. Just wait. No, I said. You will. And I closed the door in her face. The next weekend was Tiffany's bridal shower, at a fancy venue that she'd managed to downgrade from a luxury hotel to a rented lakeside hall, after all the Monroe funding was pulled. She didn't invite me, obviously, but I was already planning my own kind of appearance, and I didn't come alone. The doors to the shower swung open around 4 p.m. Everyone turned. Conversations stopped. Even the champagne servers froze. I walked in, dressed in deep green, hair curled, chin high. On my arm, Grandpa, and right behind us, Marianne. We walked straight through the glittery decor, past stunned guests holding cake pops and fake smiles. Clarissa rushed toward us. You can't be here. Grandpa held up a hand. Try and stop me. Tiffany's jaw dropped. What the hell are they doing here? I'm not staying, I said. Just dropping something off. I handed her a cream-colored envelope. She hesitated before opening it. Her eyes scanned the contents. Her hands started shaking. She looked up, eyes wide. You're donating in my name? To the Shelter Foundation, yes, I smiled. Every gift on your registry was converted into a donation under your name. The Monroe family believes in impact, not vanity. Tiffany turned red. You're using my name to look charitable? No, I said gently. I'm using it to remind people what generosity looks like. Maybe one day you'll learn the difference. Her fiancé's mother clapped softly from the corner. No one else dared. Clarissa looked like she wanted to scream. Derek tried to hide his smirk. Even the DJ had stopped the music. I leaned in and whispered to Tiffany, Oh, and your wedding cake? The one you ordered with the Monroe discount? It was rerouted this morning to the local orphanage. Enjoy the backup from the grocery store. Then I turned and walked out. That night, I sat by the lake, watching the sky turn pink and gold. It should have felt like victory, but it didn't. I felt hollow. Was I becoming like them? Just then, Marianne walked out and sat beside me. You okay? She asked. I don't know. You did what was right, she said softly. Did I? I asked. Or did I just want to make them hurt like they made me hurt? Marianne looked at me for a long moment. Maybe both. And maybe that's human? I nodded, eyes stinging. But just as I was about to stand, my phone buzzed. A text from someone I never expected. Derek, I need to tell you something about Grandpa. It's important. Meet me tomorrow, please. Alone. My blood ran cold. I met Derek the next day at a small public park, neutral ground. He was sitting on a bench, hunched forward, looking 10 years older than the last time I saw him. When he saw me, he stood up slowly, guilt written all over his face. I thought you might not come, he said quietly. I almost didn't, I replied, arms crossed. So, what is it? He looked around. We need to talk somewhere private. No, I said firmly. Say it now. He ran a hand through his hair. Okay, but promise me you'll hear the whole thing. I'm listening. Derek took a breath. You think Grandpa changed the will 2 weeks ago. He didn't. He changed it last year. I knew. Mom knew. So did Tiffany. My heart dropped. What? He nodded slowly. It was always going to be you. He made the decision after you paid off Aunt Lydia's medical bills behind everyone's back. He said, that girl has more heart than all of us combined. I blinked hard. Why didn't he tell me? Because you were never supposed to find out this way, Derek said. He had a plan. He wanted to slowly ease you into it. Introduce you as the new heir. Let the family adjust. Then what changed? I asked. You did, he replied. You showed up, you pushed back, you fought, and Grandpa saw it, and he sped everything up. I felt my hands tremble. You all knew, and still treated me like a maid? He looked away. We thought if we made you feel small, you'd stay out of the way. We didn't expect this version of you. I laughed bitterly. So it was always a game. Number it was a war we were losing, he said. And Mom, she wasn't going to accept it. She started digging into legal options, pressuring Grandpa, trying to find ways to overturn it. And you? I wanted out, he admitted. I didn't want the inheritance war. I just wanted peace. But I should have said something. I should have told you the truth months ago. I stared at him. Why are you telling me now? Derek swallowed. Because I think Mom's planning something. I froze. What do you mean? She's been talking to lawyers. Her tone changed after you showed up at the bridal shower. She kept mentioning loopholes, family secrets, and last night she made a comment about changing the narrative before the media gets involved. My mind started racing. She's going to go public? I said. He nodded. And paint you as a gold digger. She's collecting stories from when you were younger, twisting them. She's reaching out to your old boss, your college professors, even your ex. My stomach turned. She wants to destroy your image so badly that Grandpa reverses everything, Derek said. I closed my eyes. So that was her final move. If she couldn't erase my name from the will, she'd ruin it in the eyes of the world. That night, I sat alone in the old family study. Marianne had left earlier that afternoon. Grandpa was resting, and I was staring at the Monroe legacy papers. Every asset, every donation, every board seat that was now mine. I had two choices: fight fire with fire, or change the story. I pulled out my laptop and began writing. Not an email, not a legal memo, not even a defense. A letter. One I would read publicly at a press conference scheduled for the next day. The following morning, the press gathered on the Monroe estate lawn. I stepped up to the podium, cameras flashing, whispers flying. Clarissa was off to the side with Tiffany, both dressed in stiff designer outfits and plastic smiles. I cleared my throat. Good morning. My name is Ashley Monroe. Some of you know me as the girl cut from the family, the one who came back with a vengeance, as the media put it. But I want to correct the narrative. I looked directly into the camera. My story isn't about revenge. It's about identity and survival. I glanced at Clarissa. She went stiff. For over 20 years, I was told I wasn't enough. I was silenced, shoved into kitchens, excluded from celebrations, and denied the truth about my own mother. Tiffany whispered something behind her hand. But I'm not bitter, because those years shaped me into someone stronger than their approval. And now, as the legal heir to the Monroe Foundation, I intend to lead it with transparency, kindness, and honesty. Clarissa started to interrupt, but I raised a hand. And let me make one thing very clear. My family's past cruelty will not define this legacy. It stops here, with me. I stepped down from the podium. The crowd applauded. Clarissa's face turned to stone. Tiffany stormed off. And Derek. He clapped. A week later, the headlines had shifted. Ashley Monroe, quiet heir turns legacy leader. Dishwasher to director, how one woman reshaped her family's empire. Clarissa tried to release a hit piece. It flopped. No one believed her anymore. And me? I stayed out of the spotlight. I spent my days visiting the shelters we funded, listening to stories of girls like me, forgotten, underestimated, written off, and I made a promise. No one would ever feel the way I did again. One evening, I returned home to find a package on my doorstep. No name, just a box. Inside, a faded photograph of my mother, Grace, holding me as a baby, standing in front of the old family house. On the back, someone had scribbled in soft blue ink, "You were always meant for more." and I always knew you'd find your way. Grandpa clutched the photo to my chest, and finally, for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. I didn't even get my shoes off before she shoved me. Sorry, this room is for real daughters. Sabrina smirked, arms folded at her chest, blocking the doorway like some kind of queen. You can take the basement or the floor, whatever suits you, Madison. I blinked at her in disbelief. Are you serious right now? Sabrina tilted her head and fake pouted. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I hurt your little orphan feelings? Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. My hands trembled. My suitcase slipped from my fingers and hit the hardwood floor with a loud thud. I hadn't even crossed the threshold of my childhood home for 5 minutes before I was reminded, loud and clear, that I wasn't welcome. Behind me, my mom's voice cut through like a dull blade. Don't cause drama, Madison, she said flatly, dragging my mattress from the guest room with one arm. She didn't even glance at me. We already set up a spot for you downstairs. Just be grateful. The mattress flopped onto the porch like trash. Outside, not even in the garage. The porch. Sabrina laughed as if it were a game. Honestly, Mom, you're being too nice. I wouldn't have invited her at all. The reunion hadn't even started yet, and I was already being treated like some stray they didn't want to feed. I swallowed the lump in my throat. My jaw clenched so hard it ached, and I did what I always did with them. I didn't fight back. I took a breath, grabbed the handle of my bag, and quietly dragged it outside. The sun had barely begun to set, but the chill in the air cut through my sweatshirt. I stared at the worn-out mattress lying in the dirt, covered in old leaves and bugs. No pillow, no blanket. Just the pathetic final reminder that in this family, I wasn't a daughter. I was a tolerated mistake, but I wasn't crying. Not anymore. Not after everything they'd done to me. 2 hours passed. My uncle's kids arrived. The driveway filled with new model SUVs and forced hugs. Everyone walked past me, pretending not to see me sitting on a lawn chair near the woodshed. No one asked why I wasn't inside. No one asked where I was sleeping. At dinner, they passed me a plate like they were handing food to a dog. Some dry chicken and cold mashed potatoes tossed onto paper. I didn't say a word. I chewed. I smiled. I kept my head down. Then Sabrina raised her glass and said, "To family." Real family. Everyone laughed. Even my mother smiled. That night, I lay on the floor beside the useless mattress outside, wrapped in my jacket, staring at the sky, and I made a decision. Tomorrow morning, I was going to leave, but not quietly, not this time. At exactly 9:17 a.m., the sound of blades slicing through the wind echoed across the entire neighborhood. Everyone in the kitchen looked up. I was still sitting in the dirt, brushing leaves off my leggings, calm as ever. The helicopter came into view, sleek, black, loud, and hovered directly over the backyard before slowly descending onto the open field beyond the trees. The wind blew everything into chaos. Napkins flew. Plastic cups tumbled across the deck. A few people screamed and shielded their eyes. My mom ran out of the house. "What the hell is going on?" Sabrina followed behind, grabbing her silk robe as the wind messed up her blowout. "Is that for us? Did someone arrange a ride for Grandma?" I stood up slowly, brushing my hands on my pants, not even looking at them. The door of the chopper opened, and there he was, Noah, my husband, dressed in tailored black slacks, sharp jacket, and aviator sunglasses. He looked like something out of a high-end magazine, confident, lethal, and impossible to ignore. He stepped out with a single hand raised, then turned to me and shouted over the blades, "Madison, I'm here, baby. You ready to go?" I nodded once, calm, steady. And the silence that followed behind me, my mother, Sabrina, the entire family, was delicious. My mom looked like she was about to faint. "Wait, what is that?" my aunt whispered. "Is that her husband?" "No freaking way," Sabrina muttered, her mouth hanging open. "That guy's loaded." I slowly walked across the field, past the cousins who never spoke to me, past the step-uncles who forgot my name, past the women who whispered about my job behind my back. And as I stepped into the helicopter, I didn't even glance back. Noah kissed my temple and whispered, "You okay?" I smiled, finally exhaling. "I am now." But the best part? They all came running after me, like clockwork, like roaches when the lights come on. "Wait, Madison!" my mom shouted. "Wait! We didn't know! Why didn't you tell us he was coming?" Sabrina ran barefoot across the lawn, mascara already smudging. "Madison, you can't leave like this. We didn't mean it." But I was already rising above them, leaving them in the dirt where they'd left me, and this time, I wasn't coming back. As the helicopter lifted, I sat perfectly still, watching them grow smaller beneath us like ants scrambling in panic. Sabrina tripped on her robe. My mother waved with desperation plastered on her face. It was the first time I'd ever seen them beg. Noah didn't say anything until we were above the clouds. Then he took my hand gently. "What happened this time?" he asked. I swallowed hard. "They made me sleep outside." His jaw clenched. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. But the silence that followed, it felt louder than the blades still humming above us. I expected pity from him, maybe even sympathy. But instead, Noah looked me in the eyes and said something that wrapped around my spine like steel. "Never again." We landed at the penthouse 20 minutes later. Not a hotel, not a second home. Our penthouse, the one he built before he ever knew me, but said always felt empty until I walked through the door. He didn't ask if I wanted to talk. He didn't push. He simply handed me a coffee, sat across from me, and waited. "I didn't want you to come," I finally said. "I know." I didn't want to seem weak, like I needed rescuing. He raised an eyebrow. "You didn't. You stood up. You walked away. I just flew the chopper." I laughed through the knot in my chest. It felt good. Too good. And then it cracked something inside me. Because for the first time in years, I realized I wasn't broken. They just taught me to think I was. That night, I lay in a king-sized bed with warm blankets and the hum of city lights outside. And I started remembering. Not just what happened at the reunion, but everything that came before it. How I was adopted when I was 2 and raised in a home where I was always reminded I was lucky to be taken in. How my mother never let me forget I was not really one of them. How Sabrina would snatch my hair ties, steal my clothes, lock me out in winter, and every time I told Mom, she'd say, "Don't tattle, be grateful." I remembered being 16 and asked to serve drinks at Sabrina's birthday party like the help. I remembered turning 22 and being told I couldn't join the family portrait because we want one with just the bloodline first. And I remembered the night I met Noah, after a temp job at a charity gala when I was cleaning up wine glasses. And he saw me, really saw me, and said, "You shouldn't be invisible." The next morning, Noah had already made a plan. He didn't say much, just handed me his iPad and scrolled to a series of folders labeled Estate, Realty, and Legal. I blinked at the screen. "What is all this?" "You told me you wanted to find your biological roots," he said softly. "So I hired someone, quietly, just in case." I stared at the files, birth records, a name, an address, a photo of a woman who looked exactly like me, a doctor, living in San Diego, my real mother. Noah leaned forward. "Madison, you don't owe anyone silence anymore, not after what they've done." My heart raced. "I don't want revenge," I whispered. He smiled faintly. "That's fine. Then let's call it something else." "Like what?" "Reclamation." I made the first call that afternoon. The woman, Dr. Julia Mendez, answered with a soft, cautious tone. I could hear the ocean behind her, seagulls in the distance. It didn't take long to confirm the truth. She'd given me up after pressure from her strict immigrant parents. She searched for me years later, but the trail had gone cold. When I told her my name, her breath caught. "I always wondered. Your father passed 2 years ago, but I always prayed you were happy." Tears slid down my face. "I'm working on it." A week later, we met, and the strangest thing? There was no drama, no grand reveal, no screaming or sobbing, just warmth, acceptance, understanding. And in that moment, I realized something I had never fully accepted until then. My adoptive family had nothing I needed, not anymore. Not their approval, not their love, not even their apology. Because what I had now was freedom. Noah had one last idea. I hesitated at first, thought maybe it was too much, but he grinned that devilish grin and said, "You want peace, but they need a lesson." Sometimes closure walks in wearing designer heels and doesn't say a word, just signs the deed. "What deed?" He dropped a file on the table. "The deed to my adoptive mother's second home. the one I had unknowingly helped fund through years of forced contributions, family investments, and stolen trust. It had gone into foreclosure 3 months ago. Noah bought it, through a shell company, under my name. "You're scaring me," I whispered, but I couldn't stop smiling. "You've been quiet long enough, Madison," he said gently. "Time they heard what it sounds like when you speak up." The invitation came like clockwork. A thick ivory envelope, gold lettering, Sabrina's engagement party. Held, of course, at the family's countryside estate, the one they always bragged about, the one my mother called proof of their legacy, the one Noah now owned. I held the envelope between my fingers and smiled. They had no idea. Not yet. "You sure about this?" Noah asked as we stepped onto the tarmac again. Not in a chopper this time. This time, it was a sleek matte black SUV, escorted by a driver in an all-black suit. "Positive," I replied. I wasn't returning for drama. I was returning for peace, just not the kind they expected. When we pulled into the long circular driveway, I saw them, laughing near the front steps, dressed in pastel tones and fake pearls. Sabrina wore white, of course, even though it wasn't her wedding yet. She spotted me instantly. Her face froze, then twisted. But before she could speak, my mother appeared behind her. She saw the car, she saw me, and then she saw him. Noah stepped out first, 6'2", sharp, calm, every inch of him screaming, "Not one of us." "And better for it." He offered his hand. I took it. Sabrina scoffed. "Wow, so you did decide to show up." I smiled softly. "It's your big day. I didn't want to miss it." "I'm surprised you could even afford a ride." Noah raised a brow. "She didn't." I did. Sabrina blinked. Mom opened her mouth, but nothing came out, and that's when the first shock hit them. "Also," I added, handing over a small envelope to Sabrina, "you'll need to relocate your little party." She looked down, confused. "What the hell is this?" Noah spoke before I could. "New ownership contract. This property is no longer yours to host events on. It's been transferred, quietly, legally, and completely." "You're joking." "No, I don't believe you," she snapped, but her fiancé's voice broke the silence. "Sabrina, he's not lying. I recognize that name. That holding company bought the deed out of foreclosure last quarter. I work in acquisitions." My mom's voice rose, trembling. "You're trying to humiliate us? What's the point of this, Madison?" I looked her dead in the eyes. You humiliated yourselves." Within minutes, panic spread through the gathering like fire. Guests whispering, Sabrina crying, my mother on her phone, frantically trying to reach a lawyer. And I walked through the house, every room they told me I didn't belong in, every photo I was cut out of, every corner I was told to clean, to avoid, to stay quiet in, and I touched the walls like they owed me something. Because they did. And now they answered to me. I was going to let it go. I said softly to my mother as she tried to corner me near the dining room. "After the porch, after the way you treated me, I was going to walk away." "You should have," she hissed. "You don't get to come back and act like you're better than—" "I'm not better," I interrupted. "I'm just free." She blinked. What does that even mean?" "It means you no longer get to rewrite who I am." Outside, Noah had already coordinated the transfer. The guests were escorted politely to a nearby rented venue. Sabrina was still crying, screaming something about her reputation. And I stood by the window, watching the scene unfold with no glee. Just closure, no revenge, just reclamation. It wasn't about money. It wasn't even about power. It was about finally realizing that the little girl they discarded, the one they made sleep on the floor, was never weak. She was just waiting. As I stood on the porch, my porch, Noah wrapped his arm around me. "You did it," I nodded. "Feels strange?" "How?" "Because it wasn't explosive. It wasn't loud." He smiled. "Because power never has to be." Later that night, I stood alone in the very same room they once barred me from. The master suite, the one Sabrina had claimed as hers for the weekend. And I laid down, not on the floor, not on a pile of jackets, but in the king-sized bed, looking up at the ceiling with tears quietly slipping down my cheeks, because the truth had finally settled in my bones. They didn't break me. They forged me. And now I was done shrinking. I didn't expect to hear from her. But 2 weeks after Sabrina's failed engagement party, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize, and a voicemail that left my fingers cold. "Hey, It's Aunt Lorraine. I know I was never kind, but would you come see your grandmother? She keeps asking for you. She's not doing well. My stomach twisted. Grandma Darlene, the only person in that family who ever treated me like I mattered. She once told me, when I was 9, hiding in the pantry after Sabrina had shoved me into a table, "You don't have to look like us to be one of us." I hadn't seen her in 4 years, not since my mother started keeping her away, claiming she was too confused and better off with rest. I told Noah I'd go alone. He didn't fight me on it. He just kissed my forehead, handed me the keys to the town car, and said, "If anyone so much as looks at you wrong, call me." The nursing home was modest, quiet, overlooking a small garden and a row of oak trees. She was sitting near the window, wrapped in a cream blanket, hands clasped in her lap. Her hair was thinner now, more silver than white. But her eyes, they were the same, software sharp, alive. When I walked in, she looked up, and those eyes welled with tears instantly. "Madison," she whispered barely above a breath. "Hi, Grandma." She opened her arms. I fell into them, and for the first time in decades, I felt like home. She asked everything, how I'd been, where I lived, what Noah was like. I told her the truth, all of it, even the ugly parts. She closed her eyes, nodded, and said, "Your mother? She was never meant to raise a soul like yours. She thought love was control. But you needed freedom." Then she leaned in and whispered, "I left you something." The attorney arrived the next morning. He handed me a worn leather journal and a set of keys. "She changed her will last year," he said. "Didn't tell anyone. She wanted it quiet." Inside the journal was a single line on the first page. "This world failed you more than once, my girl. Let this house be your start." The address was for a small lakefront property 2 hours north, her personal getaway spot that no one in the family even knew she still owned. And now, it was mine. When the family found out, the group chat exploded. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails, angry texts. Sabrina's message stood out. "You manipulated her. That cabin should have gone to the real family." My mother's voicemail was even colder. "You've always been a taker. You've taken enough. Don't show your face again." I didn't respond to any of it, not out of fear, but because for once in my life, I didn't need to. Noah drove me up to the lake house the following weekend. It was small, simple, blue shutters, a dock that dipped into still water. But the moment I stepped onto the porch, I felt peace. The real kind. Not the kind you beg for or earn with silence, but the kind you build. Through fire, tears, and reclaiming every piece of yourself they tried to bury. That night, Noah and I sat on the dock with coffee and a blanket wrapped around us. He looked at me and said, "You know they'll never say sorry." "I don't need them to." "And what do you want now?" I smiled. "To build something no one can take from me." He nodded, and then, for the first time since this story began, I finally breathed. Not to survive, but to live. 3 months later, I was standing in the same place my mother once dragged my mattress out to, the old family porch. Only this time, I wasn't there to sleep on the ground. I was there because the house had been listed for auction. Noah bought it without hesitation, quietly, legally, through another holding group just like before. It was never about revenge. It was about closure. I didn't tell anyone. Until the notice went out. That's when the text started. "Mom, you're not serious? Sabrina? Why are you doing this to us? Aunt Lorraine, you don't owe them a thing. But I just wanted you to know, your grandma would have been proud." I didn't attend the auction. Noah did. And when he returned, he placed a small envelope in my hand. Inside was the final title deed. It was done. The house where I was never welcome now belonged to me. 1 week later, I invited them all. Yes, all of them. One formal, cold, neutral invitation. Same style as the ones they sent me. No explanation. Just a time, date, and address. And they came. Curiosity always wins. They arrived in their luxury cars and smug expressions, probably thinking I was going to gloat or beg for peace. But instead, they found me waiting on the front steps, holding a pen and a small stack of documents. "Welcome," I said calmly. "What is this?" Sabrina narrowed her eyes. "I'm transferring it to charity." Mom's jaw dropped. "You're giving the house away?" "Yes," I replied, "to a program that helps displaced girls who've aged out of the system. They'll have beds, warmth, and safety. Why would you do that? My mother asked, breathless. I stared right at her. Because no girl deserves to be treated the way you treated me. Silence. Noah stepped beside me, holding my hand. Sabrina's fiancé muttered something and walked away. A few others followed. But Mom stayed, trembling. For once, her voice was small. I was trying to protect what was mine, she whispered. I nodded slowly. And I finally learned to protect what was mine too. We left without another word. No explosions, no fights. Just a quiet, full-circle end. Back at the lake house, I opened Grandma's journal again. Near the back, she'd written something I hadn't seen before. Sometimes the greatest revenge is choosing not to become what they tried to make you. I smiled and let go.